Sultan Ibrahim takes oath as the 17th Yang di-Pertuan Agong. And former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan sentenced to 10 years in prison. Hello, good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brendan Lepal and you're watching World Today. His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim of Johor has taken and signed the oath of office as the 17th King of Malaysia for a 5-year term. The ceremony of taking the oath of office and signing the instrument of office took place at the 264th special meeting of the Conference of Rulers at Bailarong Sri, Istana Negara. At the special meeting of Conference of Rulers, Sultan Nazrin Shah of Perak took and signed the oath of office as Deputy Yang di-Pertuan Agong for a 5-year term. A ceremony steeped in military tradition welcomed the arrival of His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim at Istana Negara Square after His Majesty arrived at the palace at 10:40 a.m. Sultan Ibrahim then acknowledged the royal salute from the main guard of honour mounted by 4 officers and 103 men from the 1st Battalion Royal Malay Regiment led by Major Nurul Fauzan Mat Sabri at the Istana Negara Square. Simultaneously, the 40-member Central Band of the Royal Malay Regiment led by Lieutenant Muhammad Fauzi Japa played the national anthem Negaraku before His Majesty inspected the main guard of honour. Earlier, the private plane carrying His Majesty from the Senai International Airport landed at the Royal Malaysian Air Force RMAF Subang Air Base at 9:40 a.m. Sultan Ibrahim was welcomed upon arrival by the Raja Muda of Selangor, Tengku Amir Shah, Sultan Sharafuddin Idris Shah, and the Selangor royalties. His Majesty then walked past a static honour guard mounted by 2 officers and 26 men from the 1st Battalion Royal Rangers Regiment who performed the royal salute. Outside the RMAF base, thousands of people had gathered since early morning to welcome the arrival of Sultan Ibrahim, waving affectionately to His Majesty as the royal convoy headed towards Istana Negara. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan was sentenced to 10 years in prison less than 2 weeks before the country votes in an election his party has been hamstrung from contesting. Khan's sentence was handed down inside Adiala jail, where he has been confined for much of the time since his August arrest. The same sentence was handed down on Shah Mahmud Qureshi, Vice President of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) party, who served as Foreign Minister under Khan. The case against both men related to allegations they leaked classified state documents. The prosecution said both men's actions amounted to leaking a classified document and damaging diplomatic relations. The latter charge can lead to life imprisonment or even the death penalty. However, Khan has called all the charges against him politically motivated. Khan was Prime Minister from 2018 to 2022 when he was ousted in a no-confidence vote after losing the backing of the nation's military kingmakers. He was briefly arrested last May, and Islamabad used the resulting unrest to justify a sweeping crackdown on PTI. The party has been stripped of its election symbol and candidates forced to run as individuals. Meanwhile, at least 4 people were killed yesterday in a bomb explosion near a Pakistan political rally as the nation prepares to go to the polls next week. Police in the Balochistan provincial capital of Quetta said a bomb planted on a motorbike detonated as supporters rallied for the PTI party of jailed Imran Khan. Senior police official Farhan Zahid said the PTI rally was passing by there, but it is not clear whether the rally was a target or not. Wasim Baik, a provincial health department spokesman, said 6 people were wounded in addition to 4 killed. In a statement, PTI said 3 of its activists were among the dead at the rally, a convoy of motorbikes and cars parading through the city to curry support for a candidate ahead of national elections scheduled for 8 February. The attack came just hours after PTI founder Imran Khan was sentenced to 10 years in prison on charges of having leaked classified state documents. Pakistan has also been suffering from a security crisis. with a dramatic uptick in militant attacks since the Taliban returned to power in neighbouring Afghanistan. Last year saw casualties hit a 6-year high, with more than 1,500 civilians, security forces and militants killed. Islamabad has blamed the rise in attacks on the Taliban, saying they are not doing enough to root out militancy in Afghanistan. A top Cambodian opposition leader on Tuesday appealed against his 27-year treason sentence for trying to topple former Premier Hun Sen's government. A court in March last year found Kam Sokha, a co-founder of the opposition Cambodian National Rescue Party, guilty of conspiring with foreign entities to overthrow Hun Sen's government. The court also stripped Kam Sokha of his political rights and banned him from meeting foreigners or anyone who is not a family member. On Tuesday morning, he was taken in a convoy of police cars from his house to the appeal court, which is not open to journalists. Judges are set to conduct 9 hearings to hear arguments in Kam Sokha's appeal. His lawyer Ang Utnam told reporters after the first hearing was concluded. Kam Sokha also asked judges to consider easing his detention restrictions so that his relatives could take care of him. In a statement, Amnesty International urged the Cambodian authorities to overturn the baseless treason conviction and sentence of Kam Sokha and end their ongoing crackdown against opposition groups. The next hearing is scheduled for 8 February. Northern Ireland on Tuesday moved a step closer to ending a nearly 2-year political deadlock after the main pro-UK party endorsed a deal with London aimed at reopening the region's assembly. The Democratic Unionist Party, DUP, walked out of the power-sharing government at Stormont in February 2022 to protest post-Brexit trade arrangements for Northern Ireland, which has the UK's only land border with the European Union. DUP leader Geoffrey Donaldson said the agreement, approved in an internal vote at a closed-door meeting, formed the basis to restore the Northern Ireland Assembly after nearly 2 years' absence. Details of the deal are expected as early as today in a move that UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak called a positive step towards restoring Northern Ireland's institutions. Sunak's Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris said the deal contains significant changes to make sure UK's internal market works properly. No renegotiations were expected with the European Union, and the deal would not likely face opposition in the UK Parliament. The deal means the DUP and the nationalist pro-Irish Sinn Féin could elect a speaker for the Assembly in the coming days. It will also see Sinn Féin's Michelle O'Neill become First Minister, the first time a nationalist has held the post after her party overtook the DUP in the last Assembly election in May 2022. Spanish lawmakers yesterday rejected a deeply divisive Catalan amnesty bill with a hardline the separatist party that demanded it voting against it on the grounds it did not go far enough. The bill will now be sent back to a parliamentary commission in a major setback for Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez that highlights the fragility of his parliamentary support. The bill was rejected by 179 votes to 171 in the 350-seat parliament, where Sanchez's left-wing minority government is dependent on a patchwork of support to pass legislation. The law will apply to those wanted by the justice system over the 2017 Catalan independence bid. First and foremost, the exiled leader of the hardline separatist JXCat party, Carlos Puigdemont. He was Catalan regional leader in 2017 and fled to Belgium to avoid prosecution. Although JXCat had demanded the law in exchange for its parliamentary support to secure Sánchez another term in office, it tipped the balance by voting against the bill on Tuesday after its last-minute amendments were rejected. The move angered the government, with Justice Minister Felix Bolanos saying it was incomprehensible they voted against a bill they had agreed on, siding with the right-wing parties that sought, quote, to imprison and outlaw them. And yet to come, at least 19 dead in Mexico highway crash. Stay with us. Protests by angry farmers spread across Europe on Tuesday as the French government scrambled to placate agriculture workers who have blocked motorways and launched convoys of tractors towards Paris. Their complaints range from rising costs to meeting carbon-cutting targets, fuel prices, inflation, bureaucracy, and Ukrainian grain imports. The French mobilization has blown up into a serious crisis for Prime Minister Gabriel Attal, who is only 3 weeks into the job after a cabinet shake-up by President Emmanuel Macron. Around 1,000 farmers with hundreds of vehicles blocked key roads into Paris for a second day, with some sleeping in their tractors overnight. Addressing Parliament, Attal said his government stood ready to resolve the crisis and praised the agriculture sector as their force and pride. A source in Attal's office said the Prime Minister would meet with officials from the FNC Pharmacists Union, the country's largest, in Paris soon. He will then meet with the Pharmacists Confederation, which on Tuesday called for the blocking of distribution centres for grocery stores to protest over chains that sell agriculture products below cost at farmers' expense. It said Attal had yet to offer any long-term prospects for farmers. Vultures soar above the mining town of Tocopilla, where Chile's dizzying transition away from coal-fueled energy has left dozens of workers idle and unsure of their future. 4 of the 9 coal-fired power plants units that Chile has shuttered since 2019 were situated in Tocopilla, an industrial town wedged between the deep blue Pacific Ocean and arid mountains of the Atacama Desert. Chile in 2019, flush in solar and wind energy, vowed to wind up operations of 28 coal plant units by 2040 as part of efforts to leave behind the planet-harming fossil fuel. President Gabriel Boric, who was elected in 2021, added the goal of reaching 80% of renewable energies by 2030. According to the World Resources Institute, Chile, along with Greece and the United Kingdom, are among the 10 countries which have most rapidly cut off coal-fueled electricity. For the first time, the world pledged to speed up the transition away from fossil fuels at the UN's COP28 climate summit in December. In Chile, the companies that run the power plants provide support for their employees when they close down, but that does not include hundreds of subcontractors or indirect jobs that depend on the industry. During a recent meeting with journalists in Santiago, Energy Minister Diego Pardo acknowledged the challenges and said there was a plan for a fair socio-ecological transition in Tocopilla. This included plans to revitalize the town, aid workers in finding other jobs, or boosting the tourism sector. The New York City Council voted on Tuesday to override Mayor Eric Adams' vetoes of 2 bills it passed last month, one banning solitary confinement in city jails and the other requiring police to record lower-level investigative stops of civilians. In passing the bills with veto-proof majorities in December, lawmakers called solitary confinement cruel and torturous and said it leads to heightened risks of injury or death for people in custody, particularly in the city's violence-plagued main jail complex on Rikers Island. Under the How Many Stops Act, police officers will have to record basic demographic information about people they question in low-level investigative stops, why they made the stop, and whether an officer used force against a person they question. The New York Police Department, which is the subject of an independent monitor appointed by a federal judge over its past practice of stopping and frisking Black and Latino New Yorkers in disproportionate numbers, has joined the mayor, a former NYPD captain, in opposing the law. Lawmakers in the Democrat-controlled council said the law amounted to a simple extension of existing reporting requirements that, quote, the most technological advanced police department in the world can easily implement. Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa on Monday ordered the extradition of all foreign nationals incarcerated in the country, which is in the grip of a severe prison crisis fueled by drug trafficking and violent gang battles. In a decree signed Monday, Noboa called on prison authority as NAI to carry out the administrative procedures necessary to see the foreign inmates serve their sentences in their country of origin or nationality. The president noted that the small South American country's detention facilities have only 30,200 places, yet hold 33,000 inmates. A penitentiary census carried out in 2022 showed that over 10% of inmates in Ecuador were of foreign nationality. Quito declared a state of emergency on 8 January, triggered by the prison escape of one of the country's most powerful narcotics gang bosses, Jose Adolfo Macias, known by his alias Fito. Situated between major cocaine producers, Ecuador has been plunged into crisis after years of expansion by the transnational cartels that use its ports to ship the drugs to the United States and Europe. At least 20 people have been killed in the country's prison so far this year, and some 200 police officers and guards have been taken hostage and ultimately released. In mid-January, Noboa announced the extradition of some 1,500 Colombian prisoners, a measure rejected by Bogota.
Yes.
A fiery collision between a double-decker bus and a truck left at least 19 people dead and 22 injured on Tuesday in northwestern Mexico. Sara Quinones, Attorney General of Sinaloa State, said it would take time to identify the remains. Officials were seen inspecting the charred wreckage of the passenger bus, which had been traveling from the city of Guadalajara in the western state of Jalisco to Los Mochis in Sinaloa. Roy Navarrete, Director of Civil Protection in Sinaloa, said the truck and the bus carrying nearly 50 people collided head-on before catching fire. Deadly road accidents are common in Mexico, often due to high speed, poor vehicle conditions, or driver fatigue. Crashes involving freight trucks have also increased on the country's highways. In one of the worst accidents in recent years, at least 29 people were killed in July 2023, where a passenger bus careened off a mountain road and plummeted into a ravine in the southern state of Oaxaca. Road crashes are a leading cause of deaths among migrants making the dangerous journey overland to the United States. In sports, South Korea sets up Australia clash as Uzbeks plot Asian Cup surprise. M-League clubs will be allowed to field a maximum 6 foreign players for the 2024-25 season. The Malaysian Football League, M-League, also announced that teams can register up to 9 imports, but the number of foreign players on the pitch is not more than 6. The MFL has increased the foreign quota from 5 to 6, including 1 each from Asia and ASEAN, following requests from M-League clubs. MFL reminded the clubs to sign import players in line with their financial situation. The MFL has also decided to reschedule the kickoff for the new M-League season from 3rd to 5th May to 10 to 12 May, following a change of date made by the Federación Internacional de Fútbol Asociación FIFA to inspect the video assistant referee VAR system here. The MFL, through a new statement issued, said the new date given by FIFA for the VAR inspection, which was due next month, has been proposed for 16 to 21st April. According to the statement, the MFL must organize a series of matches involving M-League clubs for the VAR tests from 22nd April to 5th May. MFL said a discussion will be held with all the clubs involved in the series of matches and will make an announcement once details are finalized. South Korea beat Saudi Arabia 4-2 in a penalty shootout to advance to the Asian Cup quarter-finals after a thrilling last 16 tie ended 1-1 in extra time at Education City Stadium in Qatar early this morning. In a goalless first half, Saudi Arabia hit the crossbar twice from a corner, while Son Heung-min was the only South Korean player to test the keeper with 2 tame efforts on goal. However, Saudi Arabia took the lead in the first minute after the restart, when half-time substitute Abdullah Radif made an instant impact, stealing in behind the defense and finding the far corner of the net from skipper Salim Al-Dawsari's pass. With Saudi Arabia having 1 foot in the quarterfinals, South Korea finally breached the Saudi defense in the 9th minute of added time when their pressure paid off and Cho Gu-sung headed home from close range to force extra time. South Korea then converted all their sports kicks while Sami Al-Najeh and Abdul Rahman Garibs had their penalties safe to send the Koreans through to the last 8, where they will play Australia. South Korea will only have 2 days to recover, with their quarter-final clash against 2015 champions Australia taking place on Friday. Earlier last night, Uzbekistan beat Thailand 2-1 in their last 16 tie, with the second-half winner from Abosbek Faizulayev at Al Janoub Stadium to set up a quarter-final clash with hosts and defending champions Qatar. Thailand were looking to beat Uzbekistan for the first time since 2007, but the Central Asian nation scored 2 stellar goals to deny Masatada Isi's side. Uzbekistan took the lead in the first half when Dior Holmatov lobbed a cross-field ball into the box to Azizbek Turgunboev, who accurately controlled the pass with his chest before volleying it past Patiwat Kamai in Thailand's goal. But Thailand equalized just before the hour mark when Supachok Sarachat pulled the trigger from more than 25 yards out with his low shot curling past Uzbekistan keeper Udkir Yusupov, who did not react in time to make the save. However, Uzbekistan restored their lead 7 minutes later through Abosbek Faizulayev when the winger quickly turned his defender and fired from the edge of the box, directing a low shot that squeezed past the keeper and into the net. Uzbekistan will be looking to reach the semi-finals for only the second time when they take on Qatar on Saturday at Al Bayt Stadium. In Europe, English Premier League returned today as Arsenal closed the gap on leaders Liverpool with a 2-1 victory at Nottingham Forest to kick off the midweek fixtures, while Luton Town moved out of the relegation zone with a 4-0 rout of Brighton and Hove Albion. Fourth place Aston Villa suffered a 3-1 home defeat by Newcastle United. Crystal Palace came from behind to beat visiting Sheffield United 3-2, and struggling pair Fulham and Everton fought out a goalless draw at Craven Cottage. Arsenal's Gabriel Jesus scored and then set up a Bukayo Saka's goal 7 minutes later at the City ground. And despite conceding late on, the Gunners survive a nervy finish to move up to second place and within 2 points of leaders Liverpool. Despite having 74% possession and 19 shots, Mikel Arteta's Gunners side did not break the deadlock until the 65th minute when Jesus, who played despite struggling with a fluid on his knee in the build-up to the match, scored from a very tight angle. They are on 46 points after 22 matches and climbed above Manchester City, who have 43 from 20. Liverpool play their game in hand of Arsenal at home to Chelsea at Anfield today. Luton Town thrashed Brighton and Hove Albion 4-0 to move out of the Premier League relegation zone, with Elijah Adebayo scoring a hat-trick after the Hatters went 2 goals up inside the first 3 minutes at Kenilworth Road. Adebayo opened his tally with a header from close range after 18 seconds before speedy winger Chadozi Ogbiris beat the offside trap to make it 2-0 after 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Adebayo fired in his second of the night at the near post in the 42nd off a pass from Ross Barkley before completing his first top-flight treble by hitting in an Alfie Doughty flick on corner in the 56th. The defeat left Brighton in 8th, level on 32 points with 9th place Manchester United, while Luton climbed 1 spot to 17, a point clear of Everton, who drew 0-0 at Fulham. Still in football, ahead of Liverpool's Premier League clash against Chelsea at Anfield on Wednesday, manager Jurgen Klopp said the league leaders will not hurry injured talisman Mohamed Salah back from a muscle injury. Salah, the league's joint top scorer this season, will, with Manchester City's Erling Haaland on 14 goals each, suffered a hamstring injury in Egypt's 2-2 draw with Ghana at the Africa Cup of Nations on 18 January and returned to Merseyside for treatment.
Another one of these stories, so there was no pressure in it besides the fact that you want to get fit as quick as possible anyway. So, but we cannot rush. If we could rush a healing process, believe me, Thiago wouldn't have been out for 10 months, and all the other guys, they would have been much better. It's not possible. You just do what you can do, and while you're doing that, we from the outside, we have to wait until they're ready.
Liverpool are on 48 points from 21 games, 5 points clear of City, but having played one more game than the champions. The 56-year-old Klopp also announced last Friday that he would leave Liverpool at the end of the season. And in other news, the Kremlin on Tuesday condemned a doping ban on teenage figure skater Kamila Valieva and the stripping of an Olympic gold medal from her and her teammates, saying Russia would try to contest the decisions. The Court of Arbitration for Sport on Monday banned Valieva for 4 years for doping, a decision that also took away the Russian Olympic Committee's gold medal in a team event at the 2022 Beijing Winter Games. Valieva tested positive for the banned substance trimetazidine, which prevents angina, at the Russian National Championships in December 2021. The results was made known only after she competed in the team event in Beijing. Her team has said the positive test could have been due to a mix-up with her grandfather's heart medication. But the CAS panel determined there had been no scope for Valieva, who was 15 at the time of the offence, to be treated with more leniency than an adult found to have committed an anti-doping rule violation. The doping charge against the young athlete stirred strong emotions in Russia at the time.
Merentasi pantai timur laut semenanjung Arab yang membakar semangat perjuangan dalam memburu tahta berprestij di Asia. Detik-detik yang dinantikan kini diraihkan. 24 pasukan, 6 kumpulan, dibawakan dari 16 Januari hingga 10 Februari di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM. Piala Asia Qatar 2023. Heya Asia bersama RTM, official media partner. Isu-isu sukan tempatan di pelbagai arena, pelbagai gelanggang. Pencapaian dan kontroversi akan dikupas dan dibincangkan dalam Planet Sukan setiap Ahad 10 malam di TV1 dan saluran sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstrima langsung di RTM Klik.
Wrapping up World Today with a reminder of our top story. Sultan Ibrahim takes oath as the 17th Young di-Pertuan Agong. Till then, I'm Brendan Lepol. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching. Take care.